Do you think you're naturally gifted at making clothes that people feel good wearing?
I think that goes back to life experience because for my perspective on it is, and I mean, I'll just get vulnerable out the gate.
Oh, thank God.
I have always just struggled body image wise for myself. So shopping when I was a kid, like, was not my favorite thing. Like, I hated trying on clothes. You know, my mom, I had talked about this in the last week or so. Like, I was talking to a buddy about this because we were talking about the gym and just like what we've been working on and, you know, how we've grown in that area. But I just remember going as a kid to like Belk, my mom taking me to get Husky Lees.
Yeah.
And I just hated that feeling of feeling like I had a different size or whatever. And I was always very conscious of like how stuff laid and fit on me, like how, you know, the clothes that I would put on, how I felt in them, how I, you know, when I looked in the mirror, did it hide the things I was insecure about?
Right.
And so I think that has given me a perspective from some life experience
totally.
that when I'm wearing something, if I'm able to in some ways mask the things that I see that no one else sees, it makes me feel more confident in my everyday life.
Nobody looks worse than in a fitting room mirror either.
No.
That's like the most transparent mirror possible.
There's something into that, like how they're made. There's got to be some sort of like...
It's got to be the lighting.
For sure.
It just makes you look terrible.
I know. And I honestly don't try on clothes very much anymore.
Okay. Is that the motivation behind World Tour?
No. For me, I mean, maybe somewhat. For me, World Tour started a long time ago, not from like an actual brand or idea, but me and my wife, we were on our first year anniversary. We were in London and we were just kind of dreaming up like, you know, what does the next 5 years look like? What's the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? And at that time I was touring heavily, had, you know, dreams to play music, and I was living the dream, you know, so to speak. And we kept kind of going shopping and stuff and finding vintage stores and big box stores. And just during one of these conversations, she kind of just phrased it. She was like, why don't you try something with clothes? Because we're still shopping. We're doing all these things. You're, you know, nitpicking the fit, the stitching, whatever, the fabric that they're using. Why don't you try something with that? And I was like, okay, I like fashion. I like clothes. I like finding remedies to the things I already talked about. Maybe there's something there. So for me, it was just like, okay, I'm going to see if this, you know, potential doorway is an opportunity to move forward. So that's kind of, but I mean, the reason I say it didn't start there necessarily is because like I've always had like a love for clothes, even in my insecurities.
Sure.
Of like finding things that fit and go together and everything like that.
I mean, there is something interesting about you or giving people like some confidence.
I don't know that I'm giving people confidence more than like maybe masking something that they feel that's similar to me.
Okay.
You know, I would love to be 6'5" with 4% body fat and Mr. Olympia. Not quite where I'm at. I can't really change the height aspect. But I think for me, I'm kind of middle of the road body type. Like when I'm making new clothes, I sample in a large because I'm a large.
Yeah.
And that's what every company does. So like if you go to Nike and put on a large and you go to Adidas and put on a large, they're going to potentially fit differently.
Yeah.
Because their perspective of what a large is different.
Is based on whoever's trying it on first.
Yeah, however they're making it to like their customer.
Yeah, okay.
Essentially, which is going to be more athletic driven.
Right.
Versus
I see.
Maybe like I don't know, Ralph Lauren, that a large may fit a different demographic type of body. Yeah. And I think for me, I kind of fit more in the average body type now. And so when I'm making clothes, that's, you know, I feel like my body type fits more of the mass population.
Okay.
Because the minority of people are 6'5" and 3% body fat and Mr. Olympia.
Right. What's it feel like to walk into a restaurant and see somebody wearing something you made?
It's still weird.
Yeah.
Like I've been in it.
Does it feel good?
It feels good.
Do you notice flaws?
I kind of just stopped trying to think past it other than just
Okay.
appreciate it.
Do you say anything?
If they're not like out of the way or anything,
Yeah.
and I like if they're with a big group or something,
Yeah.
or if they're like off on their own or something, I might be like, "Hey man, I like your hat."
Okay.
But I never
I say something when I see them.
But I don't ever try to like make the connection.
I always say something. I'm like, man, great hat.
Because it's one of those things for me, it's like if they recognize me or know me, that's cool.
Yeah.
My ego doesn't depend on that.
It's like a different thing though than playing music, because music, it's like a pretty instantaneous feedback loop. You're on stage.
Yeah,
You
you
walk off stage, you get a pat on the back, ideally.
And you know from the crowd
Yeah.
if they like it or don't like it.
Totally. Whereas like doing fashion, it's like it could be months. It may never happen.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, part of the journey I've been on with it is, you know, I'm not, I have a marketing degree that went on the shelf and
Yeah.
I played music for 10 years. And then I go into business, and a lot of that stuff that I learned in those 10 years didn't translate. So I'm learning how to run a business. I'm learning how to do accounting and financing and
Right.
marketing and stuff like that. And a lot of the things for me just never really mattered. It was just like, I want to make really good products. I want to do the best I can with what I know and try to put something out that gives people a little bit of confidence.
Was there anything that did translate?
I mean, I think hats have done really well. And I think that's just because I have a very particular type of hat I like.
What I really mean is, did anything that you learned from touring as a musician translate into your job now?
I think the people to people reaction and relationship aspect of business is a huge thing. Like, because that is touring. Like, I'll never forget, played with this guy named Brandon Ray. Shout out Brandon Ray. Gave me my first real opportunity in Nashville. And I remember I was subbing in for his guitar player. We were driving back from Myrtle Beach, I think, because we had played a run of shows, kind of like Greenville, Myrtle Beach, that part of South Carolina. And I just remember asking, we were coming back through Knoxville, and I was like, I just got to ask, like, why'd you ask me? Because I met him at like the typical.
That's such a you question to ask. I love it.
Fair.
Not
Well,
like in
it's
the
just
best possible way.
Well, it's like, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Like, there's a billion guitar players in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I would say there's a billion better than me. But like, why? And he's like, oh, well, dude, when I met you and we swapped numbers, I just enjoyed talking to you. And I enjoyed hanging. And he was like, if I can't play 90 minutes with you, I don't want to be in a bus or a car or playing with you for 8 hours. And it kind of stuck with me through my time in Nashville and how that's developed into this. It's like, obviously, not everyone who buys Spiritual World Tour I would want to hang out with for 8 hours.
Sure.
But when I'm out, if I meet them, if I'm talking to them, if they're DMing, if they're emailing, or just that more personable people to people reaction, that there is a face on the other side of this
Yeah.
versus just, here's my customer service rep.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm still learning and growing in. And
It is an interesting thing to make things for yourself, which is essentially what you're doing. Like, you're making things that you would wear.
100%. And I think it's just being open to evolving with it. Like, when I started World Tour, I was 27. Mm-hmm. Now I'm about to be 33.
Yeah.
I dress very differently at 32, almost 33, than I did at 27.
Yeah.
I mean, styles changed, I've changed, life has changed. And the people that found World Tour in 2020, great time to start a business,
Yeah.
who found it then are not in the same place in life they were then.
I actually remember now you showing me the first sample. You picked me up at the airport.
Yeah.
And I'd been gone for months, and you picked me up, showed me the first sample. And then it must have been within a year that it was all over a bunch of videos. And
Yeah, I mean,
I suppose it would have been probably on the Grammys that year, because they would have showed clips of that.
of the elevation map thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, 2020 was a weird year because I had started World Tour end of 19 going into 20 and was really starting to launch that next business idea. Or I guess not next, first real business idea. And I remember I made, I think it was like 100 hoodies.
Okay.
And I told Anna, I was like, if I make my money back, I'll do something else.
You made 100 before selling any of them.
Yes.
Super ambitious. Amazing.
Well, I was like, I mean, at the time, finances looked a little different.
Yeah, sure.
So it was like, all right, cool. It's going to cost X amount.
Yeah.
to invest in myself in this potential opportunity.
Yeah.
If it hits, awesome. If it doesn't, we've got Christmas gifts for the next 5 years.
Right. And you've learned something.
And I've learned a new thing that maybe this is or isn't for me. And I think over the last 5 years, as I've learned the aspects, and I'm still learning the aspects of being an entrepreneur, like I'm down to bet on myself. Like that is kind of the whole thing of like, if you move to a town like Nashville, LA, New York, wherever like there's a creative hub and you have like this outlet of, I want to get this thing out and see if I can if I can make it. It's like you're betting on yourself.
Yeah, wow. You're totally right.
But that for me is where it's like, in that moment, there was a dollar sign to him, how much I was willing to bet on myself.
Yeah, right. Right. Which is so rare. Like, because in music, you don't really get that as much. I suppose you do, because like, you know what your rent cost and
Right, and you're buying gear.
what your gear cost. Yeah, but it's not so like just practical as that.
Yeah, and it's different also because it's like a physical product.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could put out a song and it cost me whatever my Spotify monthly is to support and listen and post it on
Right.
Instagram.
But there's like an actual sacrifice, especially because you're making like custom made stuff that is just expensive to make.
Yeah, so I know very quickly of like,
Yeah.
you
Whether
like it
people
or you
really
don't like
or
it.
not. Did you sell all of those?
Yeah, I sold, I think how I did it, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was
Yeah.
on the road when they released, and
What did that feel like?
it was weird. Because I remember we were playing Mohegan Sun, and
Sick.
yeah, love that place. And I remember I did it in batches by size.
Okay.
So I put it up on the World Tour Instagram.
Yeah, did you have a website at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it was like,
Yeah. You're making this thing up as you go.
yeah, very bare bones. Like, if you want to buy it, this is the website to go buy it
Which
from.
I just love.
That's
And you
it.
were I know this. You were shipping things yourself.
Oh yeah, for the first 2-3 years.
Yeah, because I remember you sending me a video after some lunch.
It was probably one of the hat ones.
I think so. And I don't know how many you sold, but essentially, I think it was like the length of your house, right?
It went from like the kitchen to the back door. So probably
Okay.
like 60 feet worth of.
Yeah, insane. Which was crazy. Like, I don't think either one of us would have caught ourselves like business. I'm even hesitating to say the word now, but like entrepreneurs. We would have considered
Yeah.
ourselves musicians.
Yeah, 100%.
So seeing you do that was like, wait, what? It opened up my mind to like, oh, maybe I could do some other things outside of music. Did you have to grieve letting that dream go?
In some ways, like, because for me, I still did it for another 3 years, was
Yeah.
doing both.
At a high level.
Like, I would, have Wednesday night bus call, play Thursday through Sunday, be back Monday morning, and pack orders Monday and Tuesday.
Which is a grind.
Yeah. And I mean, it got to the point to where I remember it was like December of 22, and I had just started using a warehouse
Okay.
and someone to help out on that front and like storing stuff, because like we were in an apartment and there was just boxes everywhere, and then we moved to a house and it just got to be a lot. Like our back guest bedroom was like just filled with boxes and inventory, and that's kind of like where the big shift started happening. And I remember it was that December, I'd come back from like a Christmas tour or something, and Anna was like, when are you getting home? I was like, an hour. She's like, all right, there's a pallet in our backyard.
No way.
So there was like a pallet of probably like, I don't know, 10, 15 boxes.
Yeah.
They were pretty big boxes.
Yeah.
So, and I just signed the deal to start using the warehouse.
Okay.
So it was very good timing.
Yeah.
Like, and neither of our cars could haul everything.
Yeah.
So I got like a U-Haul rental for like 4 hours.
So crazy.
Just to load everything and transport it over.
Why do you think people resonate so hard with what you make?
I don't know.
Take a guess.
I think maybe because there's an aspect of it that feels genuine to me. Like it feels like extensions of me. Like very early on with World Tour, I kind of made the decision of like, if I wouldn't wear it, I'm not putting it out, because it's not, I've never made a bucket hat. I've never made a dad hat.
Right.
Because I
Thank
don't
God.
wear those things.
Right.
And there's plenty of brands that do, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just not me. It's not it's not part of the aesthetic that I think I have or think looks good on me.
Yeah. It is a crazy thing to, like you were saying earlier, to bet on yourself because.
And maybe that's more of it.
But you're betting that people like what you wear, and there's no hiding that.
No, but also there's, hats have done really well for World Tour. Like, they've by far been,
You definitely have the best fitting hats
thank you.
I've ever worn.
Thanks. And if I say we, it's me. Now there's an actual, for a long time, we at the company, and you're looking at we at the company.
Totally.
Just feels nicer when you.
I had a meeting earlier with my CEO. Totally.
Yeah, exactly. I need to create like a fake assistant who responds to emails.
It's called ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. No, but for so long I was doing. Sorry, what did you ask?
I
I just got sidetracked.
Yeah, no, you're good. I kind of did too.
Because if you hear,
I was trying to think, how do I make this more about feelings?
fair. Because if you hear any huffing and puffing in the background, it's my dog, and so like I'm hearing that and him.
It's nice. This is the podcast, man. It's chill. What do you say to people when they say, I want to start a clothing brand?
If you want to start a clothing brand, the first question I ask is, do you want to make the clothes or do you just want to put your stuff on clothes?
And this is really important to you.
It is. For me, there was a desire for me, and this is not everybody, this is not right or wrong. This is not you're wrong if you do it one way or you're right if you do it another way. That's not it at all. This is also has to do with like bandwidth and conviction on it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, and also just as a preface, like you could have this conviction and not have the bandwidth. And I think if you want to do something and bet on yourself, then just do it. And eventually, you'll get to where you want to go. My journey was just, I'm going to start a clothing brand. If I'm going to say I'm a designer and these are my clothes, I want to make them. That just was important to me.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with anybody else, or that like if, I don't know, fill in the blank mega brand prints on Gildan t-shirts and they have great brand value and they can sell their t-shirts for $90 because a Kardashian is wearing it. That doesn't mean they're wrong.
Right.
That just means they got killer brand identity.
Yeah. Okay.
And so for me, it just was like important to make sure that if someone asked me like, what do you do? And I say, well, I make clothes, that I owned up to that. Because that was like a character integrity thing for myself.
Was that the first time you learned something like that about yourself?
No, I think that's a common trait. But back to the question of like, I gave a lot of prefaces before I gave the answer. Because I don't want this to like ostracize or like deter anyone from it. It's just like, what do you align with? I would say if you want to start a clothing brand, figure out if you care about making the clothes or not, and then just do it.
And that's been pretty true of most things in your life. You just do things.
Yeah, I'm very much just like, let's vomit and clean it up.
We're similar in that way. Like, we'll figure out how to make it work later.
Yeah,
but I think it's important to go do the thing.
Yeah, and I think there's like, going back to what I said earlier, of like, if you live in a city or you make a big move to a big city to pursue this dream or whatever, there's like a delusional amount of confidence you have in yourself to think like, oh, I can do it. To like just have enough, grit to make that decision is probably the biggest win.
Well, and that gets harder as you get older to make those kinds of decisions.
We evolve and responsibilities change.
And when you're young, I feel like it's really easy to say like, oh, I'm going to go uproot my whole life to go do this thing.
Totally.
And then there's more responsibilities as you get older and the stakes are a bit higher. So it gets harder to do it. But to still be able to do it says a lot.
Well, I think that just comes down to value system.
Yeah.
And also just what you have to be disposal of.
Okay.
Because like if you're a single dude who lives in Des Moines, Iowa, who's the best guitar player in your town, and you have this dream of wanting to see the world and be on stages, and you've just got your family there, that's much easier of a decision with less ripple effects than that guy who might be married with 3 kids.
Right.
Like that affects way more people.
Why did you want to be a guitar player when you were young? Or did you?
I didn't. So for me, I mean, there's really no way around this part of it.
Okay.
But for me, I played sports all growing up. Started playing golf when I was like 3 or 4. Started playing hockey when I was 5. Still played like baseball and all that kind of stuff, but really fell in love with hockey and golf. Kind of stuck to those. High school, pivoted more towards really just focusing on hockey. And my junior year of high school, my dad passed in a car accident, and I was like, I don't really love this the same way I did anymore.
Okay.
So then it was like, okay, how do I find an outlet? How do I find like a new, passion? Because this has kind of changed. I've dedicated 12 years of my life to this at this point. And I'd gotten an acoustic guitar as a gift when I was maybe like 14, 13. And I started learning how to play. The first song I learned was Howie Day Collide.
Yeah, amazing.
Great song.
Perfect first song.
Dude, capo 3 or 4 and go to town.
Yeah.
And I just remember like, I really like this. And I started going to like a new church, and there was like a band, and it was new. It was all new to me. And I was like, I think I could do that. So then I started playing with them, and that was right when like YouTube really started coming around in like 08, 09, and just started looking, what the bands were in the Christian music industry, looking up videos of guitar players for bands that I loved, and, live music videos and all these different kind of things, and just kind of found a sound and found inspiration and just dove head deep into it. And then 2 years later was in college and was playing more at like different churches and events and stuff. And post college, moving to Greenville, South Carolina, I met a guy who started traveling, playing with a little bit. And then he was like, well, I'm moving back to Nashville with my family. I really think you should think about moving. And I kind of was just like, I don't know that I want to do that. The guys there are so good. Self-awareness is, I think, one of my higher skill traits for myself. And eventually I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And then I moved here. So for me, it was kind of that life-jarring event of looking for a outlet, looking for a passion, somewhere to fill time, something to fill space.
Yeah.
Just kind of have some sort of a creative outlet.
Can we talk about your dad?
Let's do it.
What does it feel like to tell a story like that?
It just changes the older I get. Because this year, this November I'll be alive longer than I was alive with him. Because I was 16.
Yeah.
And I'll be 33. So that's kind of a weird feeling. It doesn't necessarily get like easier, but it also doesn't like get harder. Like random things like will trigger it. And it's not that I get into like this, puddle of a mess and I can't, function or anything like that. Like it was, when it's fresh, new. Yeah. And you're just trying to wrap your head around, okay, this person is no longer available. Like it's gone. So for me now, about to have our first kid, I feel like that's starting to open up some things.
Okay, yeah.
But not in like a negative way. Yeah. Just of like there's a tenderness that I think that's coming back. Yeah. And like an excitement around that. Because I think the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is like my dad was great across the board. Obviously he's human, not perfect like any of us. But I have such good memories, going to the rink, grabbing pizza after, like travel hockey days, hotel stays, like all these different things that are, cherished memories for me that, had an end date on them at a young age for myself. But I'm excited to kind of like transition into that role and get to make those memories with my son.
Cool.
So
cool. You don't talk about it a bunch, but I've seen you consistently make yourself available to have that conversation when someone is going through something similar.
Yeah, I think it's isolating. That's why. And like, I don't bring it up much because it's kind of just like a wet blanket on a good time. It's like everyone's having a good time. Someone's talking about Father's Day coming up. It's like,
yeah, sure.
The one guy around the campfire being like, well, I'm not celebrating that.
Well, have you found that you're often the only person?
No. As I've gotten older, it's becoming more apparent that like everybody's got a time clock. Yeah. Everyone experiences this at a different point.
Yeah.
And just because I experienced it earlier, I think I've just had more time to walk through some of those things and those stages of grief and those stages of loss. And for me in particular, is like I went through it without him being at high school graduation, you know, first real girlfriend, college graduation, engagement, marriage, first kid on the way, buying a house, like making a big life decision to move to somewhere like Nashville and pursue dreams and a career. Like there's been a lot of big things in my adult life that in some ways have felt like I've had to handle solo.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there's been anything or anyone who has taken that role.
I mean, like my stepdad is great, good guy, but obviously like nobody can replace that space in your life. And I think that God has been kind to me. Like there's been mentors kind of along the way. And I can go back to, Jody Pageant at Christian Heritage. I can go back to TJ Barton at True North. I can go back to Graydon Tomlinson in Greenville. I can go to Carl Cartier in Greenville and then Nashville. And then as I've gotten into Nashville, like it's transitioned because, as you get older, mentors kind of evolve into some sort of friends.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been an important thing to surround myself with people who have kind of been that next step in life, who have kind of walked through a little bit further. And that was just something that I intentionally tried to position myself with since I was lacking that.
It's an interesting thing to be so acquainted with loss so early.
Yeah, and I mean, I called 2008 the start of the dark years for myself.
Okay.
Because like 2008 was a wild year for a 15, 16-year-old. Like my parents separated.
Yeah.
I got meningitis and was in the hospital.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude, I had like this terrible, like couldn't get out of bed, moaning, wailing, went to like 5 or 6 doctors.
Okay.
No one could figure it out. They finally gave me a spinal tap and they were like, did that help? And I'm like, no. And they gave me a second one.
Okay.
Within like an hour. And then some dude blacked out, totaled my car 3 months later.
Okay.
My dad's accident happened.
Yeah.
And that was all in 2008.
Yeah, wow, okay.
And then within the next 3 to 4 years, I had 2 friends' dads pass, and then all 4 grandparents. Wow.
Yeah.
So me and grief, we spent some time together.
You've shaken some hands.
Yeah, we've shaken hands.
Does that change how you interact with people who are walking through grief?
Yeah. I think grief is like the great unifier.
Say more.
It doesn't matter whether it's like brother, son, father, job, whatever. Like, pain can recognize pain. And I think for me, experiencing a different side of it than some people have at this point in my life, I think it gives me an empathy to try to be a little bit more in their shoes. And I think I just have a little bit of a perspective on they don't want to hear it's going to be okay.
Sure.
They just want someone to sit. They just want someone to hang out.
Yeah.
They want someone to be like, hey, I'm picking up a pizza.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk. Let's turn on a game and just sit and hang.
Yeah.
I just don't want you to feel like you got to sit here by yourself. Like that to me is the pinnacle of supporting in times like hard times like that.
Grief is funny because it's maybe like you saying it's the great unifier. It's maybe the one thing that everybody goes through. If you haven't had to grieve something yet, you will.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's anything else like that. Like everybody is going to walk through that at some point.
That's what you were talking about earlier, like grieving the loss of
playing guitar
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that how I handled that played in, like what my life experience has played into that.
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way.
Because
But you had some practice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not practice it's not a practice you wanted to show up to.
Yeah, nobody's signing up for it. It's like,
sure. Oh, it's tragic.
Like God, make me more patient. And then it's like, all right, here you go.
Oh, right.
And then it's like, why did I ask for more patience? Because everything sucks now. No, but that's the thing is like, I think that has kind of primed me for things. And I think where that gets me in trouble is I think the side, if I don't constantly stay on myself for, is like, it can make me overlook the little things in life.
Okay.
Like the little interactions, seeing the guy with the hat and the world tour hat in a restaurant and I'm walking by, it's like, all right, cool. there is somewhere in my head that's like, well, that's cool. There's all this heavy stuff that's like goes through my mind that's like, you know, the world's ending, whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we'll
Which makes sense.
But I think that's just like, I've got to be intentional to, you know, not let myself dive into that, because those feelings are real and valid, but that's not necessarily a healthy way to operate. So I think there's been a big balance for me of like trying to elevate what my demeanor is day to day.
Okay. Because that just can't be the whole lens you see the world through.
Right. That leads to a very pessimistic, cynical, none of us are getting out alive, why even bother? Apathetic,
Right.
you know,
Which
perspective.
It can go one of two ways. None of us are getting out alive.
Facts.
So some people might say, why bother? I would say, so let's just see what we can do with this thing.
Yeah, make the most.
Like, it's all back on the thing you were talking about a second ago, and just starting. It's like, well, we're all going to die. So I might as well just start the thing I want to start.
This podcast is taking a huge turn.
The clock's ticking.
The clock is ticking, and I think...
Have I told you about my idea for an app?
Yes. Death clock.
Let me tell it on the podcast anyways. I want to get a TV, like an app that you can put on a smart TV, like behind your desk.
Yeah.
That you sort of put in all of your information. So you're like, you know, your family's genetic history. You put in like, oh, were you a smoker? For how long? Do you drink? All these do you exercise regularly? All these things. And then there's an algorithm that will calculate how much time you're estimated to live on Earth. And then it's just like a loading bar that slowly moves over the course. So you can just look at that thing while you're on the phone call that you're wishing would end. You can look at it and think, this is literally wasting my life. I need to do something today.
Is loading or countdown better? What do you feel like is more jarring?
I suppose it depends what you think's on the other side.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm sure we could do that with ChatGPT now.
Definitely. I think I'm going to do it Death Day. That's what it's going to be called. It's so dark, but it's also a bit, I think that is how both of us look at life a bit is, well, I'm only, I'm 29. I'm only going to be 29 once.
Right.
And I think when I'm 33, I'm not going to look back on 29 and thought, man, that was embarrassing that I started that podcast. I think I'm either going to still be doing it or I'm going to think, man, I learned so much about how to communicate with people through that experience. Sure. Was it scary that I did it publicly? Yeah. But the people in my life, and I know this to be true for you too, the people in my life, like, they're going to support that. They're not going to like come up to you and say like, minute 10.
Yeah.
It is an interesting thing to look at and be really aware. I think you can go too far with it, but to be really aware of the fact, like, we're going to die.
Well, I think it's
so
just
what do I want this to be?
Depending on your lens. Like for me, I think I've come full circle to there being more of like a sensitivity and like that life is precious.
Okay.
And that the fact that this is it for this version of life.
Yeah, this is it.
So I think for my own mental health and my own like choices and everything, it's created an urgency to bet on myself, make the phone call, take the time to hang with the guys, like take the time to hang with my wife.
Yeah.
I saw a thing the other day of like, because algorithms are wild on social media. It's like you look at one clip and it's like your whole feed is now that thing.
Right.
And, for me, I was like I looked at one stroller and now my Instagram feed is like, here's the top 50 strollers. And it's like influencer moms being like, things I wouldn't buy, things I would buy if I had another baby, like all this kind of stuff. But it was saying like, you have 18 birthdays with your kid. And it's like 18 times. Yeah. Like that's wild. Like you have 18 Christmases, like with them, quote unquote, in your house, under your care before college is, while high school and below is what they're saying. And I think when you break it down to something like that, it creates like that's meaningful. Like each one of those are meaningful. And in the same thing with like life, it's like this podcast could come out and I could get hit by a car and it's like, that was it. Like
that's such a good glimpse into that joke is such a glimpse into our relationship. Totally.
Facts. But again, like neither one of us are sitting here saying like, and I have this like degree or history to prove why this is true or not. It's just like, this is how I'm approaching things. This is why I'm willing to bet on myself, why
Yeah.
I'm willing to be vulnerable, why I'm
Oh,
willing
yeah.
to leave space in my life for friends to be like, man, that's not quite it.
Yeah, there is a sense of urgency.
Yeah, because I don't want to get to be 40 and be like, which is almost 7 years, which is crazy.
Yeah.
A little over 7 years, and get there and feel like I missed out because I wasn't willing to be corrected. I wasn't willing to be like, open, or I wasn't vulnerable enough, and someone could have like spotted this and like encouraged me, or someone would have been, I don't start the thing and no one even knows about it because I kept it to myself, or I do start the thing and I learned something that then opens the door to the next thing. Like, it's not necessarily about like the end goal of, now I have a $500 billion valuation on a clothing brand. It's like, who do I get to grow into through that process? Who do I get to bring along the way? Who do I get to develop into? How do I get to become a better husband, better father, better friend? And those are the things that like my lens has shifted towards, versus, oh, I want this company to do well because it will make my life easier.
Right.
That's more of like a byproduct.
Well, and in taking a risk like that, you are inevitably opening yourself up to criticism.
Welcome it. I mean, I think there's valid criticism and then there's unnecessary.
Sure.
But I mean, like, if let's go back to the guy in the restaurant, sees the hat and he's wearing it, and he's like, dude, I love the hat, but like, what do you got to say? Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Like, you bought it, you got feedback, give it to
Wow.
me. Like, my opinion is not authority on it.
Right.
There's a bajillion hat brands and clothing brands now.
Do you consider yourself to be successful?
That's such a hard thing. Like, that's such a hard definition, because to 18-year-old me,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What about to 27-year-old you?
Still yes, but then you get into the present from that and you're like, oh, but there's still all these other things. It's like this never-ending, rabbit hole of now the dream is this.
Yeah.
Now the dream is this. And I think like that to me has been the thing that I've wanted to stay sensitive to through life as I've gotten older. World Tour may not be the end all be all. It literally could just be a side quest to the next
I
thing.
love a side quest.
But I think like if you're open to it, it's like the side quest is like where the mystery and the adventure is.
Yeah, totally.
It's like in Ted Lasso when she's like, the only thing left at the mountaintop is lightning.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm down for that. Like,
Yeah, okay.
you got to go back down the mountain, because then you get up there and you see this other high point and you're like, I want to get to that one.
Right.
So
Is success the goal?
it depends on what category you're defining it by.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you to define success.
I think I think success is stewarding the things I've been entrusted with.
Would you consider yourself to be successful at stewarding the things you've been entrusted with?
In some ways, I think there's a lot of growth for me. Like physical health, I would say majority of my life, no. In the last 3 years, I'd be like, yeah, I think I've been a good steward. Like, I get up at 5:15, I go to the gym, come home, have my personal quiet time. This is where I need to lie and be like, I get up at 3 a.m., read 4 books.
Yeah, right. Right. I've already read 4 books today.
Do a
Totally.
30-minute cold plunge, 4 hours in the sauna.
I met with my coach while I was working out.
Then I do my first meeting.
Yes.
Like, no, it's nothing like that. Like, for me, it's like if I'm doing the things that help me be the best version of myself,
Yeah.
to then allow me to show up and be a good husband,
Yeah.
be a good
That's
friend.
a success.
Like, that's successful. Like, money's going to come and go. I can't control it.
Yeah.
I've worked 90-hour weeks, 4-hour weeks,
Yeah, right.
and everything in between.
Yeah.
And I don't really control the opportunities that come in and out. Like, I can hustle, I can do my best with it, but I can't, we talked about that with touring. It's like, you can't make the phone call happen.
Right. Which can be so frustrating.
Especially when it's like, I'm willing to work, I'm willing to do what it takes.
Yeah.
But you can't make that, like, if you want to be a guitar player, you can't make Morgan Wallen's management call you to hire you.
Right. Which is why I think it's so important to have a side quest.
For sure.
So you have some place to put all that energy versus thinking.
Yeah. And
Not that there's any, like, I think it's important to be aware of what's going on and not distracting yourself.
But I think that's where, like, the joy of the journey comes from, because you could, and I know I'm paralleling a lot of things to like Nashville and guitar playing and stuff like this. This kind of goes for anything. It's like if you want to start an Etsy shop or be a photographer or whatever, it's like you could go get a job at a coffee shop to pay your bills, do your side hustle as your photography, which is the main goal. You have no idea who you meet by working at that coffee shop, the stress relief that comes from knowing your bills are paid that allows you to be more creative. Like there's so many things that come, and you might realize I love coffee. I love the ins and outs of it.
Interesting.
I now want to open my own coffee shop, and because of your photography skills, you now have an asset that contributes to that to make insanely cool branding look professional for a startup coffee shop.
Yes. And then the other side of that is if you do that and you realize you want to be a photographer at some point, you're going to have to say,
make the leap.
yeah.
But also the freedom to be able to make that choice without being forced into it because you either do or don't have money.
Yeah, right. Of course. Money's always the factor in everything.
To some
Unfortunately.
degree. It plays a big part.
To some degree?
Yeah, I mean, World Tour wasn't bankrolled.
Sure.
Like it was coming out of me and Anna's account.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't for the first 2 years was there an actual business account set up.
Right.
Like,
right.
it was just like
Totally.
Stripes depositing $500 sick.
Straight into the checking account.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, I'm like, dude, with spreadsheet being like, all right, 500 came in, the next hat order is going to cost this much. All right, cool. And I need to borrow an extra like $400. Like,
right. She's your investor.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, money does play a part in it, but it also just comes down to like being willing to be uncomfortable with it.
Do you consider yourself to be a serious person?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's bad?
I don't think it's bad. I think I rub people the wrong way.
Because you're too serious.
Sometimes.
I would consider you to be playful too, though.
Yeah, but that's because we've got almost a decade of friendship. Like
Dude, what I would give to go back to the first time we met, like at Steadfast.
Yeah.
What I would give and just sit there and know what was going on.
I mean, I remember that conversation well.
I have vague memories. I know it was pouring down rain.
Yep.
Sounds like we're relaying our first date. It was like pouring down. It was like pouring down rain, and I think it was probably serious because we're both very serious people.
Obviously.
But I'm interested that you there's a hesitation to just own that.
It's not but again, it's just for me, yes, I'm more of a serious person. And it's funny because like Anna would be like, you can be, you're not always that.
Yeah.
But I think to the GP, general population, I come across more serious. Like the amount of times that I've met someone and then the next time I meet them and I have maybe a little bit more time with them, they're like, dude, you're not a jerk. When first time I met you, I thought you were a big jerk.
Because you're so like...
Yeah, I'm pretty
dry?
dry, I think a lot. And I think it comes from the life experience I have of like valuing intentional conversations and valuing like time because it is limited.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm very bad at being like, and this makes Anna uncomfortable at times. We're like, I will be at a party or something and, me and Irish Exits are great friends.
Totally, you just cut.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'm out. But also having a conversation with someone, I have no problem being like, hey, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I'm gonna go chat with a couple other people and just like end it there. Not because I don't like that person, not because I think there's anything wrong with them or anything like that. It's just like there's something that I'm looking for when I'm connecting with people.
Yes.
And it's not that they suck or they're shallow or anything like that. Like I just want to identify the people who I can have a conversation with and kind of get into a little bit because that's what gives me the spark to keep digging deeper.
Right. Only really interested in digging in.
Not only interested because there's a time and a place for it, but like if I do have the option of, hey, let's go talk. Well, like I love sports, but it's like let's go talk about the Titans' upcoming roster, or let's talk about your fatherhood trauma. Like I'm going fatherhood trauma all the time.
Why do you think that is? Was your disposition like that when you were a kid?
No. I was way more like playful, light, like class clown.
Is that because you were a child or because your life experience, like, you know, sort of changed that in you? Like, do you think it's your most true self to want to dive into that stuff? I love that you're that way, by the way. I'm that way too.
Yeah.
That's something I'm exploring currently, is like, am I too serious?
No, I know. And like, I think it's a safety thing for me
It's safer to be more serious.
in some ways because it feels like I can be very playful and like joking and having a good time with people who I feel safe around.
Yeah.
But being serious with people, I think, is very confronting, where I don't just want to like talk about anything. And then just as a disclaimer, if I don't know you, have not met you,
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be pleasant and have a very lighthearted conversation.
Totally.
Has nothing to do with that, like, we have to dive into whatever, you know, secrets you have. That's not what I'm asking for.
But if you want to fast track a friendship,
Yeah. And I think it just comes down to like the value of time, the value of like transparency, vulnerability. Like, those are things that I value very highly. So when I feel like I'm met with that, it disarms me to be able to be like, well, let's jump into it.
yeah. I know for me, I'm much more comfortable there than I am. I definitely have to be comfortable with a group of people for me to be like cracking jokes, which is, I think, backwards to what you would expect from just, you know, most people.
Totally.
And it can be a flaw for sure.
Yeah. But that's why I say, like, that's kind of my hope and disposition on life, as far as like having people around me who can be like, you're being a little too serious. Like, let's dial it back a little bit. Like, this isn't a huge deal. Like,
Oh, right.
like
Is that what attracted you to anime?
probably.
She could pull you out of that?
I mean, other than the fact that she is so hot. Like,
Right.
I was trying to find like good verbiage for that. That was seemed fitting. But no, she's very lighthearted, fun. Like,
But she's also serious.
yeah, like we can dive into it and like we can
Yeah.
have really good conversations. I think that's like been a big thing in our marriage and our relationship that I'm thankful for, is like we can kind of just get into it, find the root of something,
Yeah.
and then kind of come back for air.
Which I think is just so fun. Like, it's so
Yeah.
Somebody was asking me yesterday, like, where are you at with feelings? I was like, I love feelings.
Yeah, dude.
It's so fun.
And I think that's kind of like a perspective people have, like, oh, if you're super serious or dry, like you're not in touch with your feelings. And for me, it's like, no, I am very in touch with them.
Yeah, that's why I think I'm serious.
Yeah.
Brent, so we share the same therapist.
Shout out.
For the podcast. Yeah, we share the same therapist. He's been on here before. He quotes C.S. Lewis to me often,
Yeah.
which is, there's a certain type of wonder that will make a man serious.
Yeah. I think because in sessions I've had with Brent, like we've talked a lot about the wonder I have
Yeah,
and like the mystery
definitely.
of all of this. And it's not that there's no place for silliness, for lack of better words.
But these are different things. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they get like misdiagnosed as the same thing, or opposite ends of the same spectrum, but
Sure.
they're not even the same spectrum.
That's kind of, I'm off track because we've gone down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that
Move on.
you were asking about seriousness, is that my natural disposition? I would say that like in a safe space where I know the people who I know their intentions
Yeah,
and I feel safe around,
yeah.
lighthearted, joking, you know, probably make too many jokes at times. And in some ways, I think the seriousness is just to kind of cut through some of the noise that exists in the world. Just because it's like, if you're not a serious person, that's cool. We can still be friends. It's probably just 'cause you've had a different life path than me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. No, of course. There's not one that's better.
No.
They're just different. I mean, it's like introvert and extrovert. There's no better. It's just different.
Right.
I'm asking because you're saying like, oh, I'm going down a rabbit trail, but you're giving permission to serious people to be serious.
1,000%. That's a great question, or a great perspective.
Thanks.
Like
And
that's,
one of the best parts of running a podcast is when people say, that's a great question. That's like,
even though it
I
wasn't
didn't
a
even
question,
know.
but it's like it's like a good
Yeah.
perspective.
Oh, that's like the best. That's what I've learned through doing this is suddenly when somebody says, great question, I'm like, oh, like,
Yeah.
God,
Affirmation. Give it to me.
Like, that's the absolute best. If somebody said, who is Tip Frank? You got 2 words. What do you say?
What do I genuinely think, or what I hope they would be?
What do you hope they'd be?
For myself, I hope it would be humility and integrity.
What do you think they would be?
serious and quiet.
I think there would be humility and integrity.
That's my goal is like, and I think also sometimes like maybe the reserved nature that I might have in certain situations. My goal is that it comes from a place of humility of like, I want other people to feel freedom to talk or freedom to like speak up, or because I have no problem voicing my opinion or my thoughts and stuff, but trying to do my best in those environments to position myself in a way that encourages that.
Okay.
Maybe I should be less serious to encourage it more.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's a great mystery. It's so interesting. Like I have this like idea in my head. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But let's say there's 100. Inside of a room, there's 0 to 100, and it needs to be filled at all times.
Yeah.
And depending on who's in the room, some people might take 25%. Some people might take 5%. If it's just two of you, one of you may take. It may be 50-50. Maybe they're taking up 70, let's call it the sort of space, like 70% of the space, 30% of the space. And, and some people take up a lot more. And so that just, there's a cap. There's only 100%.
Right.
Or 100 spaces available. And so it's interesting to go into a room with that view and be like aware of like, okay, I only have 5% here. And wanting to be somebody who walks into a room and both has something to say, but there's 95% of the space available to be taken. Which I would say you're really good at knowing when your moment is.
I try, and it's not because I'm trying to set it up to like, and here's my moment to steal the show.
No,
it's just more of like,
it's like survival.
in some ways, yeah. Like if someone comes in and they're at 95 and I need to be at 5, that's fine with me.
Yeah, it's not even an active decision.
No,
you're just like at 5. Oh.
And I'll be there.
Yeah.
And if the roles are reversed, like there's times where I need to be 95, like I can be 95.
Yeah. Are you willing to fail?
100%. I've already failed.
Say more.
Like, I mean, I'll keep it a spiritual world tour, but like it had a very quick shift from here's an idea to this is an actual business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm attributing the bandwidth I have to that. And I'm making decisions of like, okay, well, this margin should be allocated to this. And based off of these numbers, we should buy this much more inventory, and went like $60,000 in debt for something that went wrong. That I'm like in the last like couple thousands of dollars of paying off. But that was...
I think it's important for you to say this stuff like publicly. Because I don't think people would know this.
Sure. Well, it's just like you get to the point where it's like, all right, you owe us money. You have 5 days. It's like, we're going to put a lien on your house in case you don't pay us back.
Yeah.
And then I learn what all that means. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. We shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because they made it seem like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, this happens all the time. And it's like, thankfully that was avoided, but I had to get resourceful on how to not have that happen. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, like I failed then because I borrowed money that I wasn't able to pay back. So then there were consequences. Mm-hmm. But now it's like we straightened all that out. I still have a house.
Yeah.
The same house.
Yeah.
Still have a business. Like, so it's like,
did you fail or did you just get more information?
Yeah. And I think it's more information and more learning, which ultimately is what I think failure is.
Yeah.
Because if World Tour didn't sell enough hoodies to make its money back, but sold enough to maybe do something else in the beginning.
Would you have kept doing it?
Yeah. I would have given it like another try.
Yeah.
And I think I could have maybe learned, making clothes, maybe I'm just not as good as I think I might be. Maybe this isn't the path for me, but I'm glad I tried.
Did you think you were naturally good at it?
No.
What made you think I can do this?
Delusion.
Well, is it?
I think everybody's creative. I think my life experience, like I talked about earlier, shaped a specific perspective that I have on clothing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's found a lane.
Mm-hmm. As you do things, you get more perspective on them, and maybe you start doing something because you like doing it and you want to be known as this thing. And then as you do it longer, you start to understand the meaning in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm making people feel good about themselves. And that's a crazy thing.
That's the goal.
Like, if you really own that, it's like, and you should, because you do that.
I mean, That is a way to phrase it.
Just sit in that for a while. Just don't deflect it. It's true.
But that's
I know it's true because wearing your stuff has made me feel better.
I'm glad to hear that.
Like those hats fit great.
But that's something that's still, that's one side of the coin that it still feels a little uncomfortable. Because like in that conversation, go back to the guy at the restaurant.
Yeah.
If I say something like, hey man, like your hat, or nice hat, just something super similar. And if they know me or know who I am or my connection to Spiritual World Tour, it could lead to a conversation like that. And they're like gassing me up. And that sometimes makes me feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
Because it's like, I'm grateful for that, but I'm doing this selfishly.
Saying you like the hat.
No, like I'm making this for me.
Oh, right.
So it's more of like the fact that you love it is a byproduct, and I'm super thankful
Because you're doing it for
that.
you.
And if you didn't like it or these people didn't like it, I wouldn't have a business. So like I'm very, very, very grateful and thankful for that. I cannot express that enough because otherwise I would just be making one-offs for myself.
Right. You'd be like me making merch for my company.
Exactly. Which if that's where it ever got to, it's like, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because it's a creative outlet for myself.
Yeah.
I've just happened to find people who align with parts of it.
Thanks for coming on. My oldest, longest friend.
Dude, thanks for having me.